Hey everybody, I thought I would do a quick video on my next project after I finish the 1987 Atlanta Braves replay, which is winding down now, about 20 games left. In fact, I may start this before I finish the other one just to kind of mix it up a little bit. But I've learned my lesson on projects, and that is, I think the best way to go on projects is to keep them small and attainable. And so rather than trying to play out 160 some odd games for one team like I did with the 87 Braves, I'm going to try something different. This is with Strat-O-Matic. And what I've got listed here are the season sets that I have for Strat-O-Matic and also the individual team cards that I have for Strat-O-Matic. And I got the idea from the APBA series called APBA Bats, which I'm not sure what the acronym for BATS stands for. I know it has to do with the best players on each of the teams. So what I did is I went through the seasons that I have for Strat, which are all listed up here, and the individual cards I have for the teams here. And I went and pulled out the 25 or 26 best players for each team that I could find to have a little double elimination tournament in what I call Strat Bats rather than APBA Bats. And the games are all going to be played in basic version only because I wanted to be able to include some of these older team sets like the 27 Yankees and the 09 World Series and the 34 World Series and the 1919 White Sox and the 53 Dodgers, and they're set up in basic only. So the only way I could include them with everybody else and to pull players from these teams was to make it basic. So I've got to go back and freshen up my skills on how to play Strat-O-Matic Basic. I've been doing Super Advanced lately, so need to tune it back a notch and go back to the basics, as the saying goes. So anyway, these are the season sets that I have to choose from. And so what I did is I couldn't do all the teams because that would be too long. And not all the teams have a long history. So what I did is I took what I feel like to be the 16 teams that are the most represented and have the best history of all the teams, at least in my opinion. Just had to go with what I felt. So what I did is I pulled those 16 teams in together, and we're going to have a 16-team double elimination tournament with the brackets and the whole 9 yards in Strat-O-Matic Basic. And I'll go through the teams that I've selected and the rosters of the teams that I have selected. Again, they're limited to the seasons that I have. So if I go through a team and you say, well, where is this guy, and where is this guy from this particular year? Well, if I don't have the card set, I can't play him that way. So I'm limited what I can do, but I want to go ahead and at least present what I have. And out of the seasons I'm listing, if you happen to see somebody that you might think I've forgotten, please let me know, and I'll see about including him. What I try to do for each of the teams is make sure they had a backup at every position so that we're not caught short in case somebody gets pinch hit for or whatever. So let's move this out of the way. And we'll look at the first team, and these are not in any particular order, but this is the first team that I just printed out. It is the Boston Red Sox. And as we look at the Boston Red Sox, what I've done here, and you can see the positions and the years of the season that I chose for that particular person. I try to pick their best season from the card sets I had. That's, again, the caveat. It has to be a card set that I own. So there's your batting roster for the Red Sox for the players that I own. And each position, like I said, does have the backups. So we're good there, although Ortiz is mainly a DH. He did play first base once in a blue moon. And I believe Dwight Evans in 87 also played first base, so I could always slide him in the backup position as well. And then the pitchers, there are your pitchers that I have. I try to get at least 4 or 5 starters and the rest relievers. And so you can see the players there for Boston. So that's the roster for Boston. And if we flip the page over, we'll go to the Yankees. And as you can imagine, the Yankees have a lot of history, and so a lot of players from days of yore. And you can see a lot of the players from 41, from 27, and not that many from, Derek Jeter's the only one in the 2000s. Everybody else is 77, Mattingly's 86, Jeter's 2001. Everybody else is 77 and prior of the batters. Now the pitchers, kind of the same deal, although of course you had Mariano Rivera from 2001, Andy Pettitte of 2001, and Righetti of 86. But then again, it goes all the way back to the beginning. I'm using Guidry of 79. I don't have the 78 set. I wish I did. But he had a pretty good year in 79 also. So those are the first two teams there. Like I said, these are not in any particular order. The next team is the Baltimore Orioles, and you can see the players that I have selected there for each of their teams and positions. Now, for shortstop, Manny Machado played both, so I'm kind of making him a utility. And same with Chris Davis. He played first, third, and the outfield, so he's kind of a utility guy as well. Then we go to their pitching staff, and you can see we got the big three from the early days, Palmer, McNally, and Cuellar, and I threw in Mike Mussina to go with them. Everybody else, it's all the bullpen. So those are the Orioles. Next team in line is the Oakland A's. Actually, it's the Kansas City / Oakland A's, but pretty much everybody's in Oakland, except for Reggie Jackson. That was his Kansas City A year of 1969, because I believe they didn't go to Oakland till 70 or 71, but I could be wrong on that. That could be an Oakland A year. I don't remember. On 69, it might have been Oakland. I know in 67 they were still in Kansas City. But regardless, those are your players there for the A's, their batters. Then go to the pitching staff, and you can see they've got, this time I've got 6 starters and 4 relievers. And that's just the way it played out. Can always use one of those starters as a reliever if need be, like a Ken Holtzman. Or I think Ken Holtzman might be the only one rated as a reliever of some sort. But you can see their bullpen does have Raleigh Fingers, Dennis Eckersley, Sean Doolittle, and Billy Koch, so they're pretty well represented. So that's 4 teams down. Next one in line is the Cincinnati Reds. A lot of the big red machine are there. And then also some of the guys from a little bit more recent, like Todd Frazier and Brandon Phillips and Joey Votto. So it's a good mix there, hopefully. And then their pitching staff, you've got the Nasty Boys along with Aroldis Chapman. So that's pretty strong back end of the bullpen when you got those 4 guys. Plus you have Eastwick and McEnany from 75, so that's not too bad. Starters might be a little bit weak, but Rijo in 90 had a great year. Gullett in 75 had a good year, and so did Soto. So they could be a formidable team to deal with. And I put Frank Robinson on the Reds rather than the Orioles. When players had... there's some players that get traded and play about half their career with 2 different teams. I try to put the player on the team that I felt like he had the most impact and best representation on. And I thought Frank Robinson was the guy for that. All right, we go to the second page over, and we got the Brooklyn / Los Angeles Dodgers. So we got a mix between the two. You can see some of the older players like Pee Wee Reese and Roy Campanella and Gil Hodges, Duke Snider, Carl Furillo, and Jackie Robinson, all from the olden days. But we have Corey Seager from last season, so he's on there representing the newer breed. And I've got Adrian Beltre. Could have put him on Texas, but I'm not using Texas because I didn't list Texas as one of the 16 teams. So early in his career, he played for the Dodgers and played very well. So he's representing the LA Dodgers on that. And then the pitching staff, pretty good. You got Clayton Kershaw, Don Newcomb, Whit Wyatt, Don Sutton, Fernando, and actually one guy I need to put on here that I left off, I'm just noticing this now, that should be on there is, of course, Sandy Koufax of 1961. So what I'll probably do is either, since I think I've only got 10 pitchers here, I think I got room for another pitcher. I'm going to go ahead and put Sandy Koufax in there of 1961 because I do have the 61 set. So I will do Sandy Koufax of 61. I'll check Drysdale of 67, see what kind of year he had, but that's the only one I really have potentially to use for Drysdale. Don't know if he was there in 61. I'll have to double check that. Like I said, as I'm doing these, I'm finding, or people just coming to my mind that, hey, you left this guy out. So, yep, I'm aware of that. No Sandy Koufax, no Don Drysdale. So I'm going to check the 61 set and see if I can include them. If I can, I'll go ahead and pull out Whit Wyatt because he was like the last guy I put in just to have filler. So if I need be, I can change that around. All right, next up is the Milwaukee / Atlanta Braves. And you see a good mixture there. of guys from Milwaukee and from Atlanta. You got Joe Adcock, Johnny Logan, Eddie Matthews, and Hank Aaron actually played for both, obviously. Del Crandall was a catcher on the Milwaukee Braves. And then you got newer guys like Andrew Jones and Marcus Giles, Chipper Jones, Rafael Furcal. They're all in there. Then pitching, we've got Glavine and Smoltz. No Maddox because he's going to be on the Cubs later. So we're going to put Maddox on the Cubs and go with these players for the Braves. They're a little bit short in their bullpen. They don't really have a whole lot of great bullpen guys to go to. So I took Garber, Stanton, and Kimbrel. But Smoltz could always be a reliever too. I'm not sure if that. I think this might have been the year he was a relief pitcher. So I'll have to double check that. I think that's the year he got like 50 saves. So that might help their bullpen as it is, because in the starters you got Spahn, Niekro, Glavine, and Avery. So that's pretty good. So there's your Milwaukee/Atlanta Braves. Next team is the St. Louis Cardinals. A lot of history with the Cardinals. And using the 1934 team set, I was able to include Leo DeRocha, Pepper Martin, and Dizzy Dean. And then also some of the older guys like Johnny Mize and Stan Musial. And then some of the newer guys like Matt Carpenter and Yadier Molina, Albert Pujols, and Jim Edmonds. So some of those players are around. And Joe Torre, that was his famous 1971 season, so he's there for that. Keith Hernandez, I thought about using him with the Mets, but he really had his bulk of his career was with the Cardinals, and he was a co-MVP in 1979, so that's why he's on the Cardinals, not the Mets. Then we got some pretty good pitchers on their pitching staff. Dizzy Dean and Bob Gibson highlight that. And then the bullpen, you got Trevor Rosenthal and Bruce Sutter to back it up. So not too shabby there. Then going on to the next team, you got the New York/San Francisco Giants. Good mixture of both New York Giants and San Francisco Giants. And you go back as far as Mel Ott in 1941, and then as recent as Buster Posey, 2014. And of course Barry Bonds, his famous 2001 season. So you got Bobby Bonds and Barry Bonds right there together. And then you also got Brandon Crawford of 2015. Then the pitching, you got some pretty good pitchers there. Juan Marichal, Gaylord Perry, and Madison Bumgarner. And then back in the bullpen, you got Rod Beck, Rob Nen, and Jeff Brantley. Not too shabby there either. So there's your New York/San Francisco Giants. Then we got the Detroit Tigers. And I was able to use Ty Cobb because I went back to the 1909 set. So Ty Cobb was definitely able to fit in there. Hank Greenberg and Charlie Gehringer from 34. And then we got as recent as 2011 for Miguel Cabrera. So there are your batters for the Tigers. Then the pitchers, you got all the way back to Schoolboy Rowe, and then up to Jack Morris and Justin Verlander if you want to go as recent as possible. Then the back end of the bullpen, you got Willie Don't Call Me Guillermo Hernandez, or Guillermo Don't Call Me Willie Hernandez. I forget which one is which. But there are the Tigers. Next up, the Cleveland Indians, and this is a good mix between old and new. We've got going back to 1941, Ken Keltner. He was the guy who single-handedly pretty much stopped Joe DiMaggio's hitting streak with his great fielding at third base. So he's in there. And then you've got Carlos Santana from last year's set, and Francisco Lindor and Jason Kipnis, all from last year's set. You've got Larry Doby. He's a Hall of Famer from days of yore, as they say. And, of course, the controversial Albert Bell, along with Buddy Bell, different spelling there. Then the pitchers, you got Bob Feller, Sam McDowell, Early Wynn, and Herb Score, Corey Kluber. Then the bullpen, you got Steve Olin, Doug Jones, and Cody Allen. Then on the other page, you got the Philadelphia Phillies. And they don't go back quite as far. Go back to Dick Allen in 67 and Dell Ennis in 55, Richie Ashburn 55. But it's mainly a lot of these 70s guys with Schmidt, Luzinski, Boa, Bob Boone, and the like. Does get as recent as 2011 for Ryan Howard. And the pitchers, you got Carlton, Robin Roberts, Jim Bunning, Cliff Lee, and Cole Hamels. That's a pretty good set. And then the bullpen, you got Steve Bedrosian, Mitch Wildthing Williams, Ken Giles, and Jose Mesa, who I affectionately call Joe Table. And there are your Phillies. Then we got the New York Mets, and the New York Mets are going to have Mike Piazza. Yeah, I could have put him with the Dodgers, but I felt like He was best known as a Met, went to the World Series with the Mets, and kind of led them in their heyday back in the early 2000s. Same with Lenny Dykstra. Could have put him on the Phillies, but I thought he made a really big impact with the '86 Mets. And then you've got Dave Kingman. He was a journeyman everywhere, but he had a pretty good year in '82 for the Mets. And we go as recent in the batting as Jose Reyes of 2011. Pitching, you got some pretty good pitchers here. This is the heart of their team. Tom Seaver, Jerry Koosman, Dwight Gooden, Jacob DeGrom, Matt Harvey, and Noah Syndergaard. And in the bullpen, you got McDowell, Orozco, Tug McGraw, Juris Familia, Henry Mejia, and Armando Benitez. So definitely the strength of the Mets is going to be their pitching staff. Not really a weak pitcher on there. They're all quite good. All right, so the Pittsburgh Pirates are next. And, of course, we go all the way back to Honus Wagner of 1909. So that's why I wanted to include and make it basic so I could have that 1909 team in there. And we got as recent as Andrew McCutchen, 2014. And, of course, you got, Clemente and Dave Parker and guys like that, Willie Stargell. And then the pitching, you got Candelaria, Drabek, Steve Blask, Garrett Cole. In the bullpen, you got a pretty good bullpen mix. Roy Face, Dave Gisti, Joel Hanrahan, Kent DeColvey, Mark Melanson, and Tony Watson. So pretty good bullpens there for the Pirates. Then the last two teams are both from Chicago, and this is the White Sox. I got 3 first basemen on there, but I could always DH one of them. But I didn't feel like I could disclude any of them or not include any of them. They all had great years. And then we go back to 1919, Eddie Collins and Joe Jackson. So that's why I wanted to include them in the basic. And it goes all the way up to Jose Abreu of 2014 for a newer version. Then the pitching staff, you got Eddie Cicotti, Thornton Lee, Billy Pierce, Lamar Hoyt, if you remember him, Blackjack McDowell, and Chris Sale. And then the bullpen, you got Hoyt Wilhelm, Bobby Thigpen, who's at the time set the record for the most saves, and Keith Folke. And then the Cubs, it's definitely a mix of old and new. We've got a lot of the newer Cubs in there now, like Anthony Rizzo and Chris Bryant. But you also go back in the day to Ernie Banks and Ron Santo. So pretty good mix there of young and old, or older players, or whatever you want to call them. Then the pitching staff, you got Rick Sutcliffe, Greg Maddux, Rick Russell, Fergie Jenkins, and Bill Arrieta, along with Bill Hands. And in the bullpen, you got Lee Smith, Hector Rondon, Kerry Wood, Joe Borowski, and Phil Regan. So those are the teams that are going to be participating, the 16 teams. And I've got it in this double elimination bracket. I know it's kind of hard to read because I wrote small, but it's a small bracket. And I was trying to figure out how to seed these teams. I had no idea. I just tried to use the best judgment I could. If I don't want to feel like I'm sliding a particular team or giving one team a great advantage, but that's just the way I put them out there, so it's the way it works. I've got the number 1 seed New York Yankees playing the number 16 seed Chicago Cubs. We got the number 8 seed Braves playing Detroit, the number 9 seed. Then the 5-12 matchup, you got the Cincinnati Reds and the Chicago White Sox. In the 4-13 matchup is the Baltimore Orioles against the Cleveland Indians. In the 3-14 matchup, you have the Boston Red Sox and the New York Mets. In the 6-11 matchup is the Giants against the Pirates. In the 7-10 matchup, it is the Cardinals and the A's. And finally, in the 2-15 matchup is the Dodgers and the Phillies. Double elimination tournament, so the loser's bracket is down here and will be filled in as the games go. We will be using a DH. It will be in basic only. And I'm going to try to give everybody as much playing time as possible. And then, just try to manage as best I can for each team. I'll probably do a few videos on this, but a lot of this is going to be offline, and I'll just maybe post the results. But for certain key games that look like it's really would be a good matchup, I might go ahead and do a video just to see. And actually, the way this playoff is working, Yankees-Cubs could be the World Series. You never know. Hope not, but those are 2 of the 4 teams that are still left. So this is it. This is my next project. I know I've extended myself quite a bit. It's taken me a long time to get this History Maker baseball getting to wrap up. So I want to make sure I get that done. I'm also doing the 1941 APA American League replay. And actually, I've whittled that down now to a Yankee Red Sox replay. I want to replay those games and have the computer do the rest of them. I'm using the Replay Baseball computer to simulate the other games. But I do want to play the Red Sox through and the Yankees through to see if I can get Ted Williams to hit 400 and see how many game hitting streak I can get for Joe DiMaggio. So this will be picked up in the near future, probably sometime near the end of the month. I'll go ahead and get this started. And like I said, I want to make sure I finish the Braves, or come close to finish the 87 Braves before I jump into this wholeheartedly. I may play a few games before I finish the Braves season just to kind of mix it up a bit. I'm actually going to play like a practice game of Stratomatic Basic just to make sure I got all the rules straight. And I don't try to incorporate advanced and super advanced rules into a basic game that doesn't need to be there. So these are the teams. Those are the seeds. That's the matchups that they're going to have. I do need to make a note, of course, for the Dodgers to go pull in the Sandy Koufax card. And if I have a Drysdale card, I'll pull that in too, depending on what kind of year he had with the cards that I have. So, but I think Koufax of 61 is definitely a good card, so I'll pull that in. And I'll have to see about Drysdale. That's the one little oversight. There's always an oversight when you do these things. You're always going to miss something. And I noticed right off the bat that was a glaring omission, not having Koufax in there, especially when Tabletop did the Koufax replay. That's what made me think of that. So that's it. It's nothing earth-shattering, just in case you guys were wondering what I was doing or what I was up to, or if I play anything other than History Maker Baseball. Yes, I do. I do play Replay Baseball, and I play APA, and I play Stratomatic, of course, and occasionally, and I also Payoff Pitch, and occasionally Status Pro. So I try to mix things up as best I can. A lot of things I do, I just do on my own. I don't even tell people what I'm doing. I just kind of do it on my own. But this little tournament thing, I think double elimination tournament is something that's doable, that won't take up tremendous amount of time. I'm not sitting there trying to play hundreds of games. I'm just trying to play maybe, the first round is 8 games, and then you got 4 here, and then 2 there. So you're talking maybe 35, 40 games by when it's all said and done. Don't know the exact amount, but when they came up with the APA bats, I thought about Strat bats, since I had so many Strat seasons that a lot of times I don't get to play with them. So my biggest job right now, before I get anything started, is going to collate the players, because right now all these players are on their team sets, and I've got to pull out all those team sets and pull out all these players and get them together on these teams, and that's going to take some time by itself. Probably something I can do while I'm watching the baseball playoffs on TV. I don't need to concentrate on it. I just need to go pull them. So it's just a matter of doing the legwork to get that done. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Don't think there is. But, that's what I'm going to be doing. So that's the next thing to look for. Probably will do a video shortly on the History Maker just to give a stat update to see how the teams are doing after 130 some odd games. Trying to compare them against what they did in real life to where they're at right now, and kind of show what the History Maker engine is doing with that. And then, of course, mix in some of these as well. Like I said, I'll do the APA one, but that's kind of my own personal thing just to do offline, because one thing I've learned is try not to stretch myself out doing 15 different things at one time, because when you do that, you don't get anything done. So my philosophy now is just to stick to 1 or 2 things and grind those out. Although I don't think this will be a grind. This is going to be fun. The History Maker one can start to be a grind, because you got so many games to get through, and you want to get it done. It's fun, but it's a grind sometimes. So sometimes you have to step away and come back, get refreshed, and like Tenacious Earl said one time, you don't want to get burned out. You want to keep everything fresh and fun, because the whole point, it's the reason why we play these games, is for fun. So that's it from here. Just wanted to put that out there, and shortly after I get everything all collated, one of these days I'll do a video to play the first game, see how it goes, and see what you guys think on this double elimination tournament. The Strat Bats is what I'm going to call it. Strat Bat double elimination tournament in basic only. So until next time, enjoy whatever game you choose to play, however you choose to play it, and I will see you all down the road.